Thank you, Peter, for a nice introduction, and I am very happy to be there. These are my potential conflicts of interest. They are too long to be read. And why do we see so many elderly people with lung cancer? It's a conjunction of two phenomena. First, increased life expectancy, which is good news, and second, increased incidence of cancers with age. And thus, the median age is somewhere between 65 and 70 years, depending on whether only clinical or histological diagnosis is considered, and dependent also on the health politics of the countries. So the definition of an elderly person. On an epidemiologic point of view, is often 65, the cutoff. But on a therapeutic point of view, it should be 70, because before there is no adaptation of treatment necessary, and after, most of the time, we must adapt treatment. The problem is that there is an underrepresentation of elderly in clinical trials, and thus they received often suboptimal treatment. As you can see on this slide, it's a retrospective analysis of 100 clinical phase 3 clinical trials devoted to lung cancer, non-small cell lung cancer. The good news is that as time elapses, there is less and less selection about age, and more trials, not excluding elderly patients. The bad news is that despite this, the median age in phase 3 clinical trials does not increase significantly. Why this poor participation to clinical trials? There are many reasons. Some of them are medical and a fear of toxicities because of comorbidities and polymedication of such patients. Also, in the clinical trials not dedicated to elderly, there are stringent inclusion and exclusion criteria which preclude any inclusion of these patients. Also, they may have difficult access to specialized institutions, and also doctors' attitude may be of some nihilism. There are also some personal or familial biases with educational factors, the own representation of the doctor who should know everything, nihilism, and the false belief in a more indolent course of cancers in the elderly, which is really a false belief. And thus, there is a worse prognosis. And as you can see in a recent analysis of SEER database, only 25% of patients older than 65, so not really older elderly, receive some kind of chemotherapy. We must think that life expectancy at 75 years, when you are 75 years, is not negligible, because for a woman, it is somewhere between 6.8 years to 17 years, and for a man, from 4.9 years to 14 years. These variations between life expectancy reflect differences in baseline health, comorbidity, and genetics. But those patients with the highest life expectancy are the same that may benefit from chemotherapy. You must remind that there are some physiologic, biologic modifications related to age, such as increase of body fat, reduced total body water, reduced renal, hepatic, and hematopoietic function reserves, change in the gastrointestinal system, and that having smoked for a long time results in comorbidities, especially cardiovascular, and also polymedication. And thus, there is an increase of the toxicity we can expect from chemotherapy. What can we do to select older patients for treatment and to adapt the treatment to these patients? We can perform a comprehensive geriatric assessment with different parameters, function with performance status, which is easy, activity daily living, and instrumental activity daily living index, which are quite easy to perform. The comorbidities, the socio-economic conditions, which may impact, especially in some countries, cognition with a mini-mental status, etc. And afterwards, we can classify the patients in group 1, who can receive a life-prolonging treatment, somewhat adapted, but can receive it. A second group, which is more difficult, if the life expectancy is longer than that due to cancer, we can finally give treatment, or we can give some treatment very adapted, but for patients of group 3, only palliation is indicated. Let us move to the first-line chemotherapy for elderly patients with metastatic non-small cell lung cancer. And first, we will see some retrospective subgroup analysis, which may help in generating hypotheses. And in favor, we will see, generally speaking, of the use of platinum-based doublets, but we will see that there are quite a lot of biases. The first example is a trial published by Rogerio Lilienbaum already quite 10 years ago, which compared in a population of patients with metastatic non-small cell lung cancer, PS0 to 2, paclitaxel to carboplatin plus paclitaxel. And you can see that there was quite a number of elderly patients, more than 70 years, compared to those patients with less than 70 years old. That the response rate was higher in the carboplatin plus paclitaxel group, as well in patients aged more than 70 and in the younger counterparts. Median survival time was longer in the doublet group, as well for elderly patients and for younger counterparts. And 1 year survival rate was somewhat higher also in the doublet arm. So same results for patients more than 70 or less than 70 years old. A more recent trial comparing pemetrexed versus carboplatin plus pemetrexed, and which is very interesting in PS2 patients only. So these patients had to have non-small cell lung cancer, stage 3B4. Squamous were excluded after 14 patients included, and total number is 217, randomized between pemetrexed alone or carboplatin plus pemetrexed. The randomization was stratified by age less or equal 70 or more than 70. The median age in the PEM and carbo-PEM was the same, 65 years old. With a range, you can see there were some very old patients, and the proportion of patients aged 70 or more was 36%. As you can see, this is the global results. There was a gain for progression-free survival and overall survival in the doublet arm. And if we look at the subgroup of elderly patients, there was the same benefit of survival in the combined arm compared to the monotherapy arm. However, there are some problems related to this comparison between different age categories in clinical trials not devoted to elderly. And these are selection biases. Of course, elderly patients enrolled onto clinical trials adapted for younger patients represent a super selection according to very restrictive inclusion criteria. Second, the median age of subgroup of patients aged 70 or more is about 72, 74 years, and thus older elderly are not included in these trials. And as a consequence, we cannot generalize the results to the population of elderly patients. So there was an urgent need for clinical trials devoted to elderly patients with advanced non-small cell, and let us have a look for the first line. The historical, very important clinical trial was published by César Gridelli and all the ELVIS group with a randomization between vinorelbine alone versus best supportive care. Probably very difficult to perform, and that is a reason for which there is only 191 patients. But as you can see, there was a significant difference in survival in favor of vinorelbine, and the one-year survival of 32% versus 14% for the best supportive care. In Japan, docetaxel seems to be the standard treatment for older patients as a monotherapy since this trial, which was performed by Kudo and all, and comparing docetaxel versus vinorelbine with an increased overall response rate in favor of docetaxel, an increase of PFS in favor of docetaxel, no significant difference in the overall survival, but a large difference in one-year survival rate. So in Japan, docetaxel is a reference for monotherapy in elderly patients. What about a doublet without platina? This was studied in two trials. The first one is a little bit small, with only 120 patients, and was given an advantage to the doublet. In the second one, by César Gridelli, 700 patients, we can see that there was no benefit in using the doublet vinorelbine gemcitabine compared to gemcitabine alone or vinorelbine alone. And at this time, the recommendation of the societies was to give single-agent therapy. So we decided in France to perform a trial to see if a doublet was better than single-agent therapy. We performed this trial on patients aged 70 to 89 with a PS 0 to 2, and 451 patients were included, and randomized either in a monotherapy arm with vinorelbine or gemcitabine according to the choice of center, or a doublet with carboplatin every 4 weeks and paclitaxel weekly until progression or toxicity, in which case erlotinib was a mandatory second line. Huge difference in overall survival in favor of the doublet. Multivariate analysis survival showing that the arms, a good PS, the never smokers had better prognosis, adenocarcinoma histology, a normal ADL index, and no weight loss. Which is interesting is that all subgroups seem to benefit from doublet, even patients with performance status 2, even patients age 80 or more, only patients with a mini-mental status less than 24 did not benefit from the treatment. Grade 3 for hematological toxicity was higher as expected in the doublet arm, and there was an excess of death, toxic death, in the doublet arm, but this difference was not significant. Another comparable study was performed in Japan, comparing docetaxel versus cisplatin plus docetaxel quite a similar scheme, but with cisplatin, with a split dose of cisplatin. There was no benefit regarding survival, even a trend toward a benefit for monotherapy arm, no benefit in progression-free survival. Difficult to compare the two studies, the same median age, but no performance status 2 in the Japanese study, a little more never smokers, and it's difficult to compare with PFS and overall survival because in Japan 50% of patients are expected to have adenocarcinoma and thus to have mutation. How many cycles should we give in induction? As a matter of fact, all trials devoted to elderly patients give 4 cycles, except for the Japanese trial. What about maintenance? If we look at the Paramount trial, elderly patients seem to drive the same benefit of survival with maintenance by pemetrexed. But remember, all these patients received cisplatin plus pemetrexed as induction treatment, so they are very special elderly patients. That's the reason for which we decided to perform a trial of maintenance therapy in elderly patients, taking the induction therapy, which was the best arm in the previous study, and randomizing responder and stabilized patients between follow-up or maintenance therapy. And we have included 500 patients. We are waiting. I think we will present the results at the next ASCO 2017. What about targeted therapy? If we look again at bevacizumab, you remember the trial Maurice spoke about, published by Sandler. And there was an unblind subgroup analysis of elderly patients who represented 26% of the study cohort. As you can see, the only difference is that there were more female sex in younger patients, as could be expected, and also more PS1 in elderly patients compared to PS0. There were 87% grade 3 or plus toxicity in the combined arm with bevacizumab versus 61% in the paclitaxel carboplatin arm for elderly patients, and quite more toxicity in the combined arm, either hematological or non-hematological toxicity. If we compare toxicity of elderly patients versus younger patients, in most cases there is a significant difference with higher toxicity in elderly patients. And if we look at the result, there is a small gain on PFS for elderly patients, which is not translated in an overall survival benefit, and thus bevacizumab is not recommended in elderly patients. What about TKI in elderly patients with an activating mutation of EGFR? There have been some studies publishing the results which are very much similar to those obtained in younger patients. And thus, first-line TKI are recommended in elderly patients with activating EGFR mutations, and probably gefitinib would be the less toxic in this case. Although Luxocrine showed no difference in outcome of unselected elderly patients treated with gefitinib versus vinorelbine, the use of TKI is not recommended as a first line in those patients with no activating mutation. Second-line treatment, very quickly, in this retrospective analysis of a hospital series of patients receiving second-line chemotherapy, there was no difference in response rate between age less or superior to 70 years, either in the salvage chemotherapy group or the gefitinib salvage group. And thus, in this retrospective analysis, the salvage chemotherapy or TKI could be given. BR21 trial comparing erlotinib versus placebo. Very quickly, you can see that the results of regarding overall survival between young and elderly patients is exactly the same. And the benefit of survival in elderly patients is less pronounced than in younger patients. Regarding PFS, there is no difference between elderly and younger patients. Again, same for placebo arm. And there is a benefit of PFS in elderly patients as in younger patients. In our trial, we had a mandatory second-line therapy with erlotinib, which could be given to 64% of the patients. And there was a PFS of 2.6 months in the patients who received the doublet as first line. And this is very similar to what was observed in the BR21 study. What about nivolumab in elderly patients? In this pivotal study, we spoke yesterday, there was quite a number of elderly patients. And they derived the same survival benefit, especially those aged more than 75 years as younger patients. As a conclusion, the last recommendation are that prospective trials support the use of carboplatin-based doublets in fit patients. For less fit patients, single-agent treatment, gemcitabine, vinorelbine, or taxanes represent a valid option. Bevacizumab does not offer a survival benefit but result in a higher toxicity rate. EGFR TKIs are strongly recommended as first-line therapy in patients with EGFR activating mutations. Age alone should not prevent the administration of second-line therapy in elderly. And finally, there is an urgent need for more elderly dedicated studies, especially in second-line setting and with checkpoint blockers. And some Latin to end, nobody is so old that he wouldn't imagine to live 1 year more. Thank you for your attention.